How's it going, guys? And welcome to the showdown between the Empire, led by Balthazar GELT, and the Warriors of Chaos, led by Archaon, the Infrequently Chosen. So let's jump right into this match, guys, and have some fun. So we're back at it again with the Balthazar GELT build, but there's been some modifications to really fit the Chaos matchup. So we do have Balthazar GELT with the Staff of Alans up here to give him that massive Winds of Magic recharge, and of course the final Transmutation. So Chaos is a faction that does have pretty durable lords. If you look at, Kolek, for example, he has a very big HP pool, but regardless, none of them really have healing, aside from Sigvald. So if they did bring Prince Sigvald, he would probably be one of the better choices against his build. You can see right out of the gates here, I'm going to be popping the Arcane Conduit and the Staff of Alans to really just give me that 1/1 on my Winds of Magic to get up to 30 as quickly as possible. So I do have Balthazar GELT up here. He's going to be casting Final Transmutation on the high value targets. And you can see my opponent did bring a bit of a Death Star build. So he has some Marauders in the front line who honestly do pretty well against the Empire. They can deal with most Empire infantry pretty effectively, can get up around the flanks. Definitely a solid choice. He also has some Chaos Warriors and some Trolls here with probably the Crown of Domination. So yeah, I think all those Trolls are going to be immune to Psychology, which is definitely pretty good. So he has just a big Chaos Death Star. But also that makes him a little bit susceptible to Balthazar GELT with the Final Transmutation. Can definitely do a lot of damage to a big blob here. So we do have GELT. We have 3 Outriders here, 2 Witch Hunters on the ground. So we're going to be using Accusation. And for once, accusing these guys of heresy is actually going to be maybe lore friendly, I guess. So we're going to be accusing Archaon of heresy, maybe using it on some of the Trolls and different targets like that. And on top of that, we do have 2 groups of Demogryph Knights. One of them is going to be the Royal Altdorf Griffites. We got some Reichsguard right here, as well as some Empire Knights. So I just kind of ran out of money on the last one, so I had to get the Walmart Knights over here. But basically, if you're going to be investing in Outriders against the Warriors of Chaos, you have to be very careful, because they do have Poison Warhounds who have 95 speed, or I think 90 or 95, and they can catch your Outriders. So if you're going to go with an Outrider build against Chaos, you really need to have the resources to kind of protect them. And even if he did have some Chaos Hounds, he wouldn't really be able to get to my Outriders easily, because I have so many protective cav here. So 2 Witch Hunters, and in the back, I do have a couple of groups of Flagellants, which on paper, and if in a standalone kind of environment, they're going to be pretty terrible against Warriors of Chaos because they have bad armor piercing. But really, when the fighting does start with his infantry, I just want them to hold and just fight to the bitter end and just kind of keep those Chaos Warriors in place to allow my cav and other troops to do the heavy lifting. So that's pretty much it for my build. For my opponent, he does have a front line of Chaos Marauders here. He does also have Chaos Warriors in the secondary line who will pretty much just mash all over Greatswords had I gone with a more traditional Empire build. He does have some Chaos Trolls in the back, so a really aggressive, almost like a Chaos Death Star, using Archaon, a Lord of Fire, with Flaming Sword, making all of his Trews, I don't even know what that is, making his Trolls immune to Psychology, so definitely some cool synergy here. I still don't think Archaon is a particularly good Lord, but he does have some fun strategies with Trolls and things like that. On top of that, my opponent does have a couple of groups of Chaos Warriors with Halberds, so expecting some Cycle Charging and maybe some Cav flanking him. Definitely not a bad choice here. So without further ado, guys, let's get this show on the road. So immediately my Outriders just taken a massive volley into these Trolls who aren't the Armored Troll variant, so the armor piercing damage isn't going to be as pertinent, but I do get a charge in with his Reichsguard. So whenever, or not my Reichsguard, my Empire Knights. So whenever you're using this build with Balthazar GELT and Witch Hunters, you want to be doing as much as you can to just kind of shut your opponent down, slow their advance so you can maximize the values from Accusation and Final Transmutation and all that good stuff. So the Knights of the Empire can be riding in here with just fat chubs and definitely doing some good damage against these very lightly armored Marauders. So we get in there, and you can see as soon as I do engage with them, I'm pulling back the Empire Knights because I don't want to be taking any engagements with the Trolls, who actually hit like trucks. 100 weapon strength, very good AP, will easily chew these guys out. So it looks like my opponent may have been casting something. No, that's a Final Transmutation. So I overcast it. That costs 28 Winds of Magic, but look at the damage it's going to do. So I was kind of waiting for Archaon to commit to that fight, and from there, I use a Final Transmutation, which just melts the Trolls. It melts the infantry. It's just turning them all to gold or lead or whatever he feels like, I guess. But that just gets me some huge, huge value right there. In the same time, the Witch Hunters are just doing a 360 no-scopes, just shooting at some of these Marauders, picking them off, and I'm basically just scooting and shooting. So for any of you guys who ever played StarCraft and played Terran with like Marines, it's basically just like shooting, pulling back, shooting, pulling back. I do get a little bit sloppy here because I was trying to micro my cav and a bunch of other troops, so I do take a tiny bit of damage, but I didn't lose any models and was able to get out. So now that, these guys have pulled back, I'm going to be doing another layer of charges. So you can see that these Reichsguard or Empire Knights are going to be coming in against these infantry, and they won't do much against Chaos Warriors who are very heavily armored, but it looks like I still did a little bit of HP damage. I'll probably take a couple casualties here. Empire Knights only have 28 melee defense, but I do get back and slow them down, which is exactly what I want. In the meantime, the Outriders are just shooting in here, and I have them pinned in place with the Reichsguard, so getting some decent value shooting at these Chaos Trolls, but really the bounce of power is a little bit in my favor after that big kind of a bomb on Archaon. You can see he's going to be pushing forward here, but man, he is at like 60%. So that is a lot of DPS coming out of the gates here. And the Witch Hunters, I'm basically just spam clicking them backwards, because if they get caught, I'm going to be out a lot of my resources. And though it looks like I'm just kind of really far ahead, or relatively far ahead in terms of the balance of power, this is one of those builds that if you have a few micro slip ups and let your Witch Hunters or Balthazar GELT get caught, you pretty much instantly lose the game. So the Flagellants of the Empire definitely doing Sigmar proud, just taking a beating from these trolls, but this is exactly what I want. They're not going to win this fight. They might be able to kill some Marauders and you know, get a little bit of DPS here and there, but they're basically just there to hold down these trolls and allow my Outriders to shoot in. So from there, I reposition on the flanks. The Outriders are just shooting in and just teeing off on these Chaos Trolls here, doing a ton of damage, and you can see these guys are probably going to rout off here, and I'll be in pretty good shape. To the Royal Altar of Griffites, I just had them on kind of guard duty. I was cycle charging over on the flanks here, and I think I am getting another final transmutation, or no, it looks like he did use the Flaming Sword of Ruin. So I'm taking a lot of damage on my Reiksguard, and he is just trying to goon my Witch Hunter. So I'm just trying to run away as fast as I can, and thankfully they do shoot while they're running, and they should be able to pick off a couple of trolls with their really good kind of AP attacks there. So realizing this is a pretty important situation, I can't afford to lose these guys. I do use, I think I used an accusation or something. Yeah, I used an accusation on the trolls, which is basically like a Spirit Leech effect. And I do get my Demogryph Knights, who I was being very patient with. I wasn't committing them to any fights. I realized that if the trolls or Archaon over pursued, they would be very, very easy targets to take down. So the Chaos Trolls are being felled, and man, that's a pretty cool looking cinematic right there. And Archaon is also a little bit surrounded. He does have some Halberds coming in to help him out, so I don't want to be in sustained combat here because the Halberds will chew up my Cav very hard. And in the meantime, you can see Balthazar GELT is flying around in the air, cackling and having a good time. So my opponent looks like he was trying to drop some sort of a bombardment or something here, so I am able to dodge that with my Outriders, and that would have done some okay damage if I'm not mistaken. I think it is more against like infantry, but yeah, he almost had a burning skull on my guys that like, just almost killed my entire group, so definitely very touchy stuff there. So Archaon and his Halberds are able to fend off my Cav. He gets some really there. Oh, this is the burning skull, so it gets through and it just chews up my Outriders right there, but thankfully I was able to dodge it. It looks like it does clip a couple of these Altdorf Griffites on the way out, but man, a spooky situation there. So I'm going to be trying to run with these Witch Hunters. You can see they're on the hunt here again, but Archaon coming in, he's tired of being accused of heresy. He's going to be fighting this guy, but I do have a ton of Overwatch here. So these Outriders are just pouring withering fire into these Halberds right here. I've got my Cav back online and was able to isolate some of these trolls. And anytime you can like finish off trolls before they're able to retreat and regenerate, you're going to be netting a ton of value for yourself. So Balthazar GELT even getting his hands dirty down there, rocking that 34 melee attack and 300 weapon strength, and Quicksilver. He rides the mighty Quicksilver into battle. I don't know why that name makes me laugh, but look at this. So Flagellants, typically I would not recommend them in this matchup. I think they're a pretty poor choice, but in this situation, look how much they're holding up, and this happens so often. Like there's 8 Flagellants, and there's 3 full groups of infantry who are just kind of like mucked up on the AI. So if like 1 or 2 Flagellants is attacking you, your AI is just going to be like switching to them and going back, and it's a really, really annoying thing to deal with. So if you're using like an Outrider and kind of an Empire Cav and skirmish build like this, I definitely think they're not a bad choice. So the Witch Hunters are down here, just kind of taking some pot shots, and I love the fact that they can run and shoot. It just makes them such a solid unit. You can see they're turning around, just picking off Chaos Marauders as they hustle. Over here, my Demogryph Knights are just kind of isolating the Chaos Forces, who are very tattered at this point. You can see Archaon is over pursuing a little bit, but my opponent wisely is going to run him back to his boys here. And he does have that Crown of Domination, so there's some leadership, but the Outriders have him surrounded, just shooting these trolls in the back. Over here, Balthazar GELT, and I think a couple Flagellants, literally a couple Flagellants. There's only 2 left here, so these guys are just patriots of Sigmar. And how many kills they got? 33 kills is not bad considering the circumstances. So this was a bit of a dicey situation. I got a little bit comfortable over here, and I do take some damage. The trolls are going to be dragging down some Griffites. You can see they lose about 3 or 4 models right there. Archaon even getting in there, and I can't believe he's still fighting with like only 166 leadership here. So this is kind of the last bastion of the Chaos Forces. The Witch Hunters are just kiting these guys out, and they should have no problem finishing off the Chaos Marauders. And I think I actually almost have enough Winds Magic for another final transmutation, which will probably be the last straw here for the Warriors of Chaos. So Archaon's wavering, sitting at about 5 leadership right here. He is keeping his troops fighting though. I mean, a lot of them might have routed off without that Crown of Domination and that Encouragement aura, but Archaon runs out into the open here, and he is going to get taken down by the mighty Balthazar GELT. This is definitely how the end time should have gone, I think. Balthazar GELT is flying in there and just laughing and just cursing Archaon and turning him to metal and stuff. But at that point, it's pretty much going to be all shoot up for the Warriors of Chaos, and you can see the Outriders just shooting in and cleaning up these troops, and it's definitely a pretty fun build. There is some kind of gooning aspects to it, like taking out Archaon that aggressively like that but yeah, I personally, if I'm going to play Warriors of Chaos against the Empire, I really like Sigvald, because if he had the Auric armor, it would have just healed through most of the DPS I put on him, and it would have basically heavily neutered my build. But Archaon, obviously, he was trying out a Crown of Domination build, so it was more of a fun build. But yeah, like I think there's some decent elements, because you can't beat Chaos in an infantry battle like very easily. It's going to be very hard, maybe with like Volkmar and some good banishments with his bound banishment and a couple other variables you can. But it's a Chaos game. You're playing into the Chaos game there by like meeting them in open field and just kind of fighting and slogging it out. But Empire does have pretty good cav. You can get some cycle charges with the Reiksguard and punish Forsaken and things like that. But I do kind of like this style of play against him. Like, you just get the Outriders, take advantage of your powder weapons, support your cav, not in like a very aggressive manner, but just support them against enemy hounds. And even if he had like Chaos Knights, I feel like with the Royal Altar of Griffites and Balthazar Gelt and some of the other tools I had, I could have handled them relatively easily and drawn the fight out and killed them with accusations and things like that. But yeah, I like that. Even the Empire Knights were useful. Just protecting these guys, just netting the maximum value, taking out those high value Chaos targets. Even if you ran into Shaggus, you could burn them down at the Witch Hunters and the Outriders. And it kind of forces Chaos into your game a little bit more. But still, I think there's some good Chaos builds. Like, had Chaos gone with, let's say, Sigvald and Lore of Death, okay, we would have seen a Fate of Buna. We could have seen Spirit Leeching on the Witch Hunters and, like, the Hounds. Like, if you had 2 Chaos Knights and 2 Hounds, like, I would have been hard-pressed to defend against that. Demogryph Knights can fight them, but that would have been tough, especially with the support of Lore of Death. So Chaos has plenty of ways to take out this build. But I think, based on what he brought, which was a very infantry-heavy kind of Death Star build, that it ended up working out pretty well. So very well played to my opponent, that doesn't make sense. My opponent over here, Lord Talabag. Look forward to running into you again on ladder. And hopefully you guys enjoyed seeing the Balthazar Gelt build on ladder. Probably going to take a break from it for a couple days. I've been playing it a lot and getting a little bit burnt out on the Gelt man. So I think the next quest is going to be trying to make Helman Gorst ready to go again. If there's any other lords you guys want to see, like just obscure lords that never see any play that you guys want to see kind of be made to work. I mean, Alberic is one of those lords who, for example, like doesn't have, he just has the trident. I'm talking lords with like relatively unique mechanics, but yeah, absolutely let me know in the comment section below. So thanks again for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed, and we'll see you guys next time.